Hey, what's up guys, it's Dorian. So I was asked a while back about TLP and using it for power management in your laptop. Now, it's fairly easy to use. It's simply a package you can install that should be available in most repos on most distros. So I'm going to run through it really quick, and I'm also going to discuss Powertop really quick too. For most distros, for me, because I'm using Manjaro, it's just a matter of installing TLP. If you're using Ubuntu, a sudo apt install TLP, and it'll install it for you. Now that's pretty much it. If it hasn't started, you could just reboot, or you can start it with systemctl. So I'll show you really quick how you can confirm that it is running. So you're just going to do a status TLP. It's going to come back and it's going to say that yes, it is active. Now if it's not active, you can run the same command, start TLP, or you could just reboot your computer and it'll start on its own. Now, it's fairly easy to configure, fairly easy to use. I don't tweak it a lot because I like all the settings. I think that it works pretty well out of the box, and you could tell when you're running on battery that the system might be running a little bit slower. There's a couple little things that are happening that you could tell that power management is happening. So a few of the options here that you can look at, you need to sudo most of these to get proper settings. Some of them work without it, but just for the sake of the video, I'm going to sudo everything when I'm doing this. So you're going to sudo tlp-stat, which is going to give you the status of whatever you're querying. So if you do a -s, it's going to show your system. So you can see the kernel I'm using with the boot and systemd, it's UEFI. Here you can see TLP status is enabled. So that's another way other than using systemctl to see if it's enabled or not. And it'll show you the last time it was run and whether you're running on AC or battery. So again, this is of course something for laptops. You could use it for desktops if you have a newer power supply that will ramp its power usage better based on how hard your computer is working. But definitely for laptops, this is something that you want to do. There's a couple of other commands here I'll show you really quick before we get going. If you tab it, you can see there is PCI-list. It's going to show you all your PCI devices. And it's also going to show you if it's on or on automatic. Same thing with USB list. Now there we go. The list is a little long, so I have to make the window wider, but you can see all my devices are here, Logitech mouse, all that stuff. Let's shrink that back down here. So if we do TLP stat, I'm also going to show you how you can tell exactly how much power your system's using, and you can compare it to things like if you're running Optimus, you can actually see if it's working or not. So if you do a -c, it's going to show you your entire configuration. And at first it's a lot. This is the configuration file. You can see configured settings, where that configuration file is. This is the default one, at least in Manjaro. I believe in Ubuntu it's here as well. But if you run the sudo tlp-stat -c, it'll tell you where the configuration file is that you can edit. So this is basically a bunch of things. Most of the settings are 1 or 0, so on or off. And there's one thing that I do change, which I'll get back to in a second. But you could see some of the things like energy preferred policy on AC, as in when your computer is plugged in, is performance. So your CPU and everything is going to run as fast as it can. When it's on battery, it's the power mode. So max performance, all these settings you can change. There's one that I change and it's right here. So let me just actually do sudo etc default TLP. It would help if I had a program, nano, and the location of the configuration file. We'll do this. Now the configuration file has a bunch of comments in here. I'll start with the hash here. And this is basically telling you what you can change. It's little tips, hints, and everything is all right here. So this is really awesome You can go in here, you can make your changes, make your tweaks, and just save it. And you could restart your computer or restart TLP and it'll work. Where is the one that I was talking about? Here we go. Enable audio power savings, value of 0 disables, 1 enables power saving, recommended 1. So normally it is on AC, it is disabled. There's no power savings. And on battery, it is 1, as in it is enabled. The problem with this is it turns your sound card on and off. Now, depending on your system, if you're using TLP, it will turn off your sound card, but then when you open up Firefox or whatever, or anything, and you go to YouTube, anything that is going to use the sound card, you get a popping noise. So before a video starts, before any kind of sound starts, you hear a pop, and then the sound goes, and it's really annoying. And so for this reason, I changed this to a 0 so that my sound card is on all the time. TLP will not turn it off when I'm on battery, and it's totally up to you. Check it out on your system. If you don't get the popping noise, awesome, then don't worry about it. But if you install TLP and every time you open YouTube when you're on battery, you get a popping noise, which is even worse when you're on headphones, go in, edit your config file, and then change that 1 to a 0, save it, and then you just do a sudo systemctl restart TLP, and it'll restart the TLP daemon and your new settings will take place, or restart your computer, whichever. All right, so next, if you want to see all the power settings, and again, this is a little bit much, a little bit overwhelming. You can see what just all flew by the screen. It's absolutely everything, including all the details of all your processors, like everything that TLP knows about your system, including temperatures and fan speeds. It just spits it all out in a big vomiting information overload. So there's, of course, things you could do, like if you only want to see temperatures and fan speeds, you just do a -C or -T, sorry. And you do a -P if you only want to see the processor information. But what's really useful is the -B. This will show you your battery information. So if we look at my battery, which isn't quite full because I wasn't using AC power, I was actually using my battery, so it's at 90%, not quite 100% full, but I am plugged in right now. If I unplug, all right, before I do that, I'll show you right here. Out of all this usage, it's showing the charge full, the design, the actual charge full, the charge right now, this is all in milliamp hours, and the current now, which all shows 0. Get off my table, cat. Okay, so now I'm going to unplug, and we're going to see here what it says. So I have 17 hours and 8 minutes remaining. It'll probably be around 2.5 hours. That's usually what I get out of my battery, but I'm also screen recording, so I'm encoding video and whatnot. So what you can do, the watch command is something that's handy. I'll give you 2 examples here. So one example is sensors. Sensors shows your CPU temperatures. If you do watch sensors, what it's going to do is it's going to show you the sensors command every 2 seconds. So every 2 seconds, it's going to automatically refresh itself and show you what it's seeing now. And just do Control-C, exit that. And so what you can also do with watch, you can do sudo tlp-stat-b. So now we can see this is going to update every 2 seconds that the current now is 2,215 milliamps, 2,237.47. So you can see this is what my laptop is consuming right now from the battery. And if we were to look now, maybe it will show me something a little bit more. No, it's still showing 17 hours. So this happens sometimes, and once I let it run for a little bit, the battery gets used a little bit, it'll change to what it's actually supposed to be. So right now I'm using 2,190 milliamps. So if I plug back in, you'll see that it'll change to 0. Actually, it changes to charging, and we should see it change to negative numbers, or maybe 0. Sometimes it just shows 0. Give it a second. I'm not going to sit here too long. All right, so it will normally switch to a negative value, and then it'll tell you how much is going into the battery. So what does this have to do with power usage? Like right now, this is actually sort of high for what I would normally be consuming, but like I said, I am screen recording, it's encoding video, and now it's showing an hour 45 remaining on my battery. So that's a little more realistic because I'm, using the CPU and whatnot. But what I can also do here is, I'll have to go full screen here, guys. So I'm using 2258, right? So because I have an Optimus graphics card, which means I have the Intel and NVIDIA graphics cards that work together, my NVIDIA card is currently off as it shows here. So if I do a GLX gears and let this run, you'll see this goes up a little higher because obviously the GPU is being used. It uses more electricity. So I'm using 2,334 right now. So 2,300 roughly. So, okay, that's because I'm using the Intel card right now, the Intel GPU. So if I quit this, and now I do a Opta run, this will use my NVIDIA GPU. And we should see a difference here. Wait for it to wake up, and here we go. So now, instead of using 2,300 milliamps, I'm using 3,500 milliamps, almost 3,600 milliamps. So huge difference in power consumption simply because now the Intel graphics card is turned on. As you can see here now at the bottom, it's now showing the temperature of 36, 37 instead of before it showed off because it was powered down. So this right here proves that the NVIDIA card is powering down when it's not being used. So let's see here, kind of drop down for a second. My frames per second's the same. Something might have throttled. So gonna go back up, 2,600. All right, so if I close that, are we gonna see a drop now? 2,200, okay. Something else must have throttled down, maybe my CPU or maybe the GPU itself throttled down because it's just showing a simple little graphic with gears. So yeah, guaranteed if you're running a game or something, it's not gonna jump back down. So close that down, it'll jump back down. And then we run GLX gears on the Intel GPU. And we can see, sorry, they keep opening on my other monitor. So you can see 2,500, 2,600 milliamps, 2,400. So a huge difference. So this confirms what you're using in power. So that's something that you can do, and keep an eye on your power. Let's just get out of here with Control-C. So again, that is with watch sudo tlp-stat b to show the battery status. So one quick way of finding out how much power you're actually using, let me just plug my AC back in actually. One quick way of showing how much power you're consuming out of your battery, and to actually know if you have Optimus, if your NVIDIA is actually turned off or not. That is the best way to find out, to be honest. And also, I've been asked about, can you use Powertop and TLP together? You can, but I would recommend you only use Powertop to monitor what's going on. This way they're not conflicting with each other and both trying to change settings. So to install it, it's the same thing. You'd go to your repo, install Powertop, and then you just run it with a sudo Powertop. It takes a second to load up while it's reading everything. And so this overview is showing all your devices, how much is being used. If you hit tab, you can go through, you can see the different states that your CPUs are running in and frequency stats. So this one here, normally just idling, not screen recording, each CPU core is running 800 and something megahertz or 900 megahertz, something like that, very, very low. Because I'm screen recording, it's at 1.4 gigahertz, fairly steady here. And I'm pretty sure if I open Firefox and bring up YouTube background here, let's see what's going on. So yeah, so I'm getting closer to 2 gigahertz here. And let me just play a random video and just turn the sound off. I'm gonna put it in my other screen actually, because there you go. So I'm playing a video now and you can see it's gone up to 2.4 gigahertz. So I'm playing an HD video on YouTube right now in Firefox, so you can see the CPU's jumped up. So in Powertop, when you're going through, you can see the usage of everything here. And then there's tunables. This is what you don't want to change. So you can go through a tab, look at all these, look at all this stuff, that's all good. But when you get into the tunables, if you're using TLP as well as Powertop, you can cause problems. So you go through here and you hit enter to toggle Powertop's power saving things. So, but you don't want to do this, like I said. Pick one or the other. I like TLP. I'm just going to close Firefox. I like TLP because it's super simple to install. There's not a lot to configure. The default configuration is really awesome, really easy to use, and I can't complain. The only thing, like I said at the beginning, that I had to change was that sound power management. Just change that to 0 so that I don't get the popping all the time every time the sound card powers up again, because it powers down, goes to sleep, and then whenever something wants sound and it powers up, it pops. So that's the only thing that I had to do. So Powertop to exit, just hit escape, and it takes a second before it shuts down. So that's pretty much it. It takes quite a while to power down. All right, well, I'll just leave it like that. And yeah, so that's pretty much it for TLP. Super simple way to monitor your laptop and see what kind of power consumption you're getting, and to be able to see what's working and what's not. You can tweak different things, and if your sound card doesn't pop, then you're lucky. Just leave it as it is, and you can have a battery life that's much longer than without it. Unplugged, the CPUs run on power save mode. So that's actually one thing that I've noticed by accident, is just doing things and then realizing that my laptop's running a little bit slow. What's going on? And then I forgot to plug the laptop into the wall, or my plug popped out or something stupid. But that's actually something that I notice. It's still very, very usable, but it's definitely noticeable. So that's actually a good thing. Particularly Manjaro, I will say, out of all other distros, Manjaro with TLP runs the best. I get 2.5 hours, 2 hours, 45 minutes out of my laptop, which is awesome for this, because I get maybe an hour and 15, an hour and a half tops with Windows. So awesome. Anyways, so that's it for now. Hope you found it useful, and I just want to say a quick thank you to my patrons over on patreon.com. Carl Schneider, George Maris, Matt Hartley, Kip Waltz, and Says. You guys are basically my producers, and I thank you very much for your contributions. If you guys would also like to contribute to my channel and help me bring content to the Linux community, head on over to patreon.com/dorian./. Thanks for watching, guys. Until next time, bash on.